Whole time, it's your boy Kendra the Bug, you know what I'm saying? We watching Ray William Johnson, and we got Not So Genius, huh? That's the caption. And as you see, the neighbor killed somebody because the music's too loud. Let's get into it.
Now, this dispute all starts with this guy, George. George is around 40 during this time, and he's living in Alturas, Florida.
Alturas, Florida. Have y'all heard of Alturas, Florida?
Here's the thing about George. He likes to believe that he's a really smart guy, smarter than everyone else. He's actually a member of Mensa, which is a high society club exclusively for people with extremely high IQs. He's also a chemist who's already done prison time for cooking meth. So he's basically a real-life Walter White.
Breaking Bad, my boy.
But despite how intelligent he supposedly is, George has a problem.
See, that's how I went to my stories. He has a problem, and then we're thinking, what is the problem?
He absolutely hates his next-door neighbors.
Okay, how many of y'all hate y'all next-door neighbors? I actually been praying like, Lord, please let me have some great neighbors. And then we do the prayer, amen.
His neighbors are the Carr family. And the Carr family has quite a few members living at their house, and they're almost always making a racket. And the biggest noisemakers of the family are the two teenage boys. These two are always outside, playing music at all hours, running around, screaming at each other. They even have dogs living outside that bark all day and chase George's poor cat around.
I don't like Garfield.
But then, one day in 1988, it gets really crazy. Because on that day, the boys are outside blasting music from their radio, and George's wife has had enough. So she marches right over to confront them, and she says, "Turn down that racket! It's driving me crazy!"
Aaron, for real. She can ask nicely, hey, y'all, can y'all turn the music down? Like, my thing is, that's your neighbor, because, like, it's not like you never gonna see them getting, like, the beef gonna simmer, because, like, she ain't gonna talk to me like that.
And the boys see that she's really mad, and they're not scared at all. They think this is funny. So they respond by laughing at her and turning the music up.
For real. If she would have said it nicely, you would have been down.
And George's wife leaves and goes home all pissed. But this isn't the only thing these kids do. They also ride their loud-ass dirt bikes all around the area, including on George's lawn. They set off fireworks at all hours. They intentionally set them off at times they think will upset George's wife the most.
Nah, these are menaces.
So finally, George has had enough, and he goes to the Carr house to talk to the boy's mom. The boy's mom is this woman, Peggy. So George complains to Peggy, but Peggy, she refuses to listen. She thinks George and his wife are just overreacting to a bit of harmless teenage fun. So this feud keeps going for months. All the fireworks and music and dirt bikes and more fighting with Peggy and the boys to get them to stop making so much noise. And when the fighting and complaining doesn't work, George decides to try another method. He types out a letter saying, "You and all your so-called family have 2 weeks to move out of Florida forever or else you all die." This is no joke. And he leaves this letter on their front door. But when Peggy and her husband find the note, they think it's just some stupid prank and they ignore it. So the noise continues. Then George's wife tries one last time to get Peggy to control her boys. She even goes over to their house and she screams at her, but Peggy just screams right back. And so at this point, George decides that none of this is working, and he has to take other measures to get this family to shut up.
What y'all think you do? Measures in your hand. How about y'all move her?
Something a little more sinister, and he's gonna use his chemistry background to do it. See, George knows the Carr family drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, so he buys an 8-pack and he brings it home. Then he uncaps the bottles and he pours in a rare chemical called thallium.
Why is he poisoning his people?
Thallium is odorless and colorless and tasteless, and it'll kill you if you ingest it. After that, he recaps the bottles so that they look brand new. Then he sneaks into the Carr's family house when they aren't home. Apparently the door isn't locked, so he walks right inside to their kitchen, and he sees a Coca-Cola pack in their cabinet, and he swaps those sodas out for his poisoned ones. Then he goes home and he waits. And sure enough, Peggy ends up drinking one, and pretty quickly she starts to feel weird. She gets chest pains and a stomach ache and an intense burning feeling in her feet. So she's rushed to the hospital, and the hospital staff runs a bunch of tests on her, but they can't figure out what's wrong. One doctor even suggests that nothing must be wrong. This must all be in Peggy's mind, and he tells her that she probably just has anxiety and that she'll eventually get better. So Peggy is sent home. But over time, her condition continues to get worse. Soon, she can barely walk, and her hair starts falling out. Then, her 2 teenage boys get sick too. So all 3 of them are rushed to the hospital. And now that all 3 family members are experiencing the same symptoms, the doctors are sure that something is terribly wrong. So they run some toxicology tests, and the results show that they were all poisoned from thallium.
Dang.
But by this point, it's too late. Peggy falls into a coma, and she, unfortunately, dies. And the boys, luckily, don't die, but they do end up in critical condition. So immediately, police get involved, and they start investigating. And they first question Peggy's husband, thinking it must be him. But when they test him for thallium, he tests positive too, so it couldn't have been him. In fact, every single member of the Carr family tests positive for traces of thallium, including their 2-year-old grandkid. And the only reason it didn't kill the 2-year-old grandkid is because the kid only had a small amount. And so police, they have no idea who would poison this poor
Dang, he poisoned a baby too?
family. And that is when Peggy's husband tells them about the threatening letter that they found on their front door. Now, eventually, police end up questioning the neighbor, George. And when they do, he's all nervous and fidgety, and
Different. He thought he was gonna get caught. How crazy can you be to kill your neighbors, bro?
police ask him, why would anyone want to poison the Carr family? And George says someone must have wanted them to move out of the neighborhood. And police immediately notice the similarities between this statement and the threatening letter. So boom, George becomes their number 1 suspect.
Now you're the main suspect.
But they don't have enough evidence to arrest him or anyone.
They need to go ahead. Nah, Dad should have upped the score on him, bro.
And that is when this woman gets involved. Her name's Susan.
Why is she so serious? Arr.
Susan is a detective working on the case, and she's kind of a badass. So Susan goes undercover.
But then again, I would want somebody very serious to help me in case if somebody tried to poison me and my family, so.
And she goes to an event that Mensa, George's high IQ club, is holding. It's actually a murder mystery weekend, and George happens.
How crazy. A murder mystery weekend. Just imagine, like, that's why you really gotta pray and scope the scene of like who y'all neighbors with, cause that could do anything. You never know what people are thinking on their mind. Yes, my mom, it was just funny because my girlfriend just had a murder mystery, dinner.
George happens to be hosting. The murder mystery weekend is an event where guests have to solve the murder with the clues that he leaves them. So undercover Susan walks in and she introduces herself to George, and she flatters him on the genius of the game that he put together, and George is all flattered. But then Susan learns the plot of the game that George wrote, and she is shocked.
No way he wrote the murder weekend and that's what he did.
The plot of the game he created is that the murderer had poisoned their neighbor's food. So now she's more determined than ever to catch him.
Dang.
And over the next year, Susan gets close to George, and she pretends to be his friend, and she calls him on the regular, and she asks him for advice.
See?
Just to flatter
Stay
him
away from the women.
smart. Him for advice, just to flatter him and make him think he's smart. And George loves this attention from her. Then, in 1990, George's wife gets offered a new job in a new town, so George and his wife have to move. And it's here when Susan asks him, why don't you let me rent out your old house while you're gone? And George is like, sure. So Susan moves in, and she becomes a tenant in the house where George mixed the poison. And this officially means that police don't need a warrant to search the place. Susan can just let them right in. So police search the house, and they find George's old work area in his garage, and hidden within a drawer is a tiny empty bottle. And police have that bottle tested, and it comes back with traces of thallium.
Dang, that's how they got him.
Which is exactly the poison that killed Peggy. And so, bam, George is arrested. Here's his mugshot. And ultimately, George goes to trial, and he's found guilty, and he gets sentenced to death.
Wow. Got sentenced though because he... Wow, prayers to the family, man. That's a crazy story. Look, watch your surroundings, watch who watching you. Like, don't take it as no joke. But like, all right, I'm gonna call the police on you, because why would you send that to me? But yeah, it's your boy J Book. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Shout out to my boy Ray William Johnson. We can do more of these, more reactions. Hope y'all been enjoying the reactions. Thank y'all for viewing, because y'all been viewing. Much love. Peace.